Welcome into the DNVR Broncos Podcast, presented by nobody, which,
oh my gosh.
I don't know. You know what we should do?
Yeah, tell me.
We should just say, like, until we do have a presenting sponsor, we should just say, like, if anybody wants to present it, like, Cody in the chat, $10 a month, presenting podcast or presenting sponsor of the podcast.
Right. Cody could be the presenting sponsor. Yeah, absolutely.
See, that's my good business brain over here.
Yep.
Extra $10 a month.
An elite business brain. If we were, watching a lot of the MLB draft yesterday.
Ooh, we were not.
They grade out the traits. That's just how they do it. Like,
30 to 80.
A batter just has 5 tools, and they grade that on a 20-80 scale.
Which is just crazy.
20 is butt, as the kids say, and 80 is elite.
It just seems like a waste of number. If that's the range you want, why not just do 0 to 60?
It's kind of rando, but I think in some of these gatekeepy communities, they like rando metrics. It just makes it a little harder
it's true.
for outsiders to understand
that
or
is
learn
true.
or adapt. Huh?
That's exactly what it is.
Huh?
Because then everybody's like, wait, why does this only mean this? I feel like they do that a lot in baseball. Just make things more confusing than it has to be when it's really just a simple game.
Oh, yes, sirree, Bob.
It's nice that it's all just math, too.
Yep.
Like, you can just go look at, like, 3 numbers for each guy and just be like, oh, he's good, he's bad, he's good, he's bad. With football, you can't do that.
No, it's not just production on an every single at-bat or play can be measured.
That's weird.
So true.
I don't know. I'm going to stick to not watching much baseball, though.
Hey,
you know the Rockies on pace for 60.5 wins right now? I need 66.
Oof.
Yeah.
The number of the beast, indeed.
Yeah. So, they're terrible. You know who's not terrible? The Broncos.
Let's go.
They were pretty bad last year, but they were not terrible. Not like the Rockies, at least. Although, wait, 60 out of 162 or 5 out of 17. 5 out of 17 might be worse.
It's not awesome.
It's definitely not awesome. Javonte Williams is awesome, though. And we got, like, I know it's an update. It's exciting to hear him say, I think I'm back week 1.
Yeah, I choose to be excited.
We kind of knew that, though. Like, he was kind of confirming all the optimism stuff. And then, when you hedge with, it's up to the team to decide. It's like, okay, there's like, after seeing him all camp, after hearing everybody talk about him all camp, I've been saying for months that I think he's back for week 1. Like, he's going to be on the field for week 1. So this doesn't really change much, but
I love that.
It was more so an opportunity for him to say, we're just hoping to be back at some point in the season and get everybody's hopes down. Like, that didn't happen, which is kind of the news to me.
So if you're giving, like, fantasy advice to your dad,
yes.
Who's getting more touches in the Broncos backfield this season?
Wow.
Javonte, Samaje, or the field?
Javonte. It's definitely Javonte. That's your RK's back tomorrow, right?
Yep. I'm not on the schedule for tomorrow's Broncos.
Okay, so it's me and RK. At some point, we need to do the running back show. I guess I could do that with RK, too.
Totally. That'd be fun. I think we'll get into some running backs today, maybe, huh?
Yeah, well, there's one in particular.
Yep. We talked straight ball on the last show, and I watched tape to prep for this show. I'm excited.
Oh, yeah.
I went back shout out to Numbies, as Cody says.
I just went through and, like, clipped all the things I've written about all of the different UDFAs. Just so I could have everything I've ever... Because you kind of forget a couple things when you go through, But then you read back and it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Like, Henry Bird, he's a tap dancer.
Oh,
it's like, I forgot that I'd written that down.
No way.
We love that for such a big guy.
No.
I know. So, we're getting into all the undrafted free agents later.
Yeah.
Any
Henry
other thoughts
Bird,
on Javonte?
Interior offensive lineman from Princeton. For those who don't know.
Famous offensive line powerhouse.
Factory.
Princeton,
yeah, absolutely. Where is Princeton in the United States? Do you know?
New Jersey?
I don't. We'll take it. Chat, if you know, correct us. Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't even apply to that one.
Nope. Didn't bother myself.
It is New Jersey.
Is it called Princeton, New Jersey?
It is.
Colleges love to do that.
Dude, you know ball so good. Well done, Henry. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have many more thoughts on Javonte other than it's good to hear him say what we were kind of thinking was going to happen.
Yeah, it's great that he seemingly is on pace, that he's not, like, pulling the reins back on that at all. Obviously, I think he's kind of, like, of all the pieces to build this offense around and project for the future, he's like on my short list. He's a top 2 or 3 as I'm projecting.
2 years left on the contract.
Yeah. The healthier Javonte can be, the sooner he can be, the better for all, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't know. I feel like as soon as this contract is over, everybody's going to be saying, no, you got to bring back Javonte. And it's like, well, wait. Didn't everybody say all offseason, like, no giving money to running backs? We don't do that. So, I don't know. I know I'm getting a little bit ahead of that, but
it hasn't even happened yet, and you're already mad.
It's going to happen. It's going to be don't pay the running back unless it's my running back.
What's exciting about the Sean Payton Javonte Williams pairing is how could Javonte be used more in the passing game? A guy like that with his just ferocity taking on tacklers, get him in space more where he can just plow through back 7 guys. And I mean, like, let's face it, a guy who's, longevity and facing injuries is already a question for him. Being utilized more in the passing game, huge part of kind of prolonging someone's career, opening up a window of utility that isn't just running between the tackles, which of course leads to a ton of wear and tear, tread on the tires. All the football euphemisms I can think of. So, yeah, that's where I think I'm excited to see Javonte get a full season in this offense with these play callers.
Yeah. And, I mean, he had 11 catches week 1 last year.
That was
exciting. He can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just jump into some of these undrafted free agents.
Wow. Let's do it.
I think later on we'll maybe talk about who has the best chance of making the roster. No, let's just do it as we go through because that'll be easy. We can kind of go position by position. Let's just start with the offense.
Yes, sir.
We'll start with the big one, Jaleel McLaughlin, the NCAA's all-time leading rusher, 3,200 yards from scrimmage in his last 2 years.
Yes.
At Youngstown State. So he started
at Notre Dame College.
Yeah, I think that's it. Started D2, went to Youngstown State. FCS.
High-end FCS.
Yes, high-end FCS.
Jim Tressel's been there, Bo Pelini.
Yep.
They've had some, the Youngstown State's one of those FCS teams I've studied on tape because there's always some guy who got a Senior Bowl invite, East-West Shrine, guy who's in the mix to be drafted day 3. They're one of those FCS football factories for sure.
Definitely. I believe... Nobody really cares. I'm pretty sure. Never mind. I'm not going to guess. Yes, I am. I'm pretty sure Montana beat them on the way to their first championship.
Whether you're right or wrong about that, it is a truly unimportant fact to what we are doing.
That is
on this here podcast.
That is true.
I would mention before we go too much further in the scouting report, he's 5'8", 194 running back. Look at that beautiful little image Yaya has on the lower third for him. For us, that is him. He was him in the FCS these last 2 years.
He was. 2-time FCS All-American. Again, NCAA's all-time leading rusher. So D3, D2, D1, whatever. His combination of
that's nuts
numbers, like nobody has ever done that as a running back in the history of college football, which is pretty crazy.
Yep.
So production's there. I think
at that size, winning because he's a track star.
Yes. Absolutely. I do think that the reason he didn't get drafted, obviously the size, and he is very fast, trying to pull up the 40 time, but is
4.4 is what I've seen.
Okay, which isn't like crazy NFL fast. That's just exactly the speed you expect from a speed back.
Yes.
So
correct.
Some work to do, but he's explosive. Like I tweeted out from the Broncos account this morning, the clip of him where he just... It's like a 20-yard run, just sneaks up the middle, right by everybody, untouched until he gets to the goal line, just jumps over the defender.
Yep. That's what really stands out to him is the speed, as you're saying, is good when you watch the tape and you're trying to watch it with the lens of, okay, I'm studying an FCS guy who's undersized. So what are those traits that are going to make up for and convince me. I always kind of match up a guy like this to an Austin Eckler, right? Like I was evaluating Eckler at the D2 level. What stood out to me that was like he's so dominant at this level that he'll still be able to like win. The first thing that stands out about him is he just gets to top speed like that.
Yep.
Like I swear, like 2 steps in and it's like boom, he's off to the races, top speed. And I mean, a guy like that, he is very dynamic in space. Give him a one-on-one in space, which is again where having this coaching staff kind of being able to shepherd him into those positions is really exciting.
Totally.
He's going to make a lot of guys miss.
Yep.
And he's got good vision. He's got good creativity as a runner, right? 194 pounds. Like, you'll probably hear some Deuce Vaughn comps. That's way bigger than a guy like Deuce Vaughn.
Way bigger.
194 can play in the NFL. And to me, height is never much of a thing I look at for running backs. Like, I think height's kind of an advantage sometimes. And we've seen
definitely
shorter backs be just fine. It's weight that's more of the...
The game also changes a little bit FCS to NFL when it comes to reading holes.
It's a lot of RPO off the gun. And he will not get that.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And so when you got all the big bodies in front of you, it just looks different, especially for a smaller back trying to find the space. The vision is something that I'm curious to see how it translates, just because everything will develop so much more quickly and you got to be through the hole so quickly. But yeah, I mean, I think you could make the case that he has the best chance of making the Broncos roster of any undrafted free agent.
Return game's going to be important. I really like that he's already showing some nice polish as a receiver, both out the backfield, and I've seen tape where Youngstown State's just going 5 wide and have him out wide, you know, and like he's not just like running go routes, like he's actually turning on a dime and making, you know, catches towards the sideline and stuff like that. What I've seen, like obviously diminutive size, so he's not going to be a huge factor, but willing blocker, a guy who can like get in there and, you know, disrupt the timing of a blitz. That's mostly what you're looking for. What you said about, you know, how he's used and the runs he's used in is going to be far different.
Yep.
You know, out the like running out the eye. Guy with that kind of acceleration and vision could be really intriguing.
With
but
that
he's
offensive line, yeah.
Because right now it's a lot of outside zone off RPO stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a big adjustment there. Seeing him as a returner is going to be huge. I'm just concerned, like, you just don't see him break a ton of tackles. Guys like Phil Lindsay, Austin Eckler, also in the 190s.
Yep.
I saw a lot more tackle breaking, a lot more contact balance. So he feels like a true scat back, right? Scat back, special teamer. Yeah, more of a, you know, instead of a true running back, he's almost like a Braxton Berrios, your returner, slot option, guy who you can use on jet sweeps, stuff like that. But the talent's intriguing, the production's intriguing, the tape's fun. Guy you will be rooting for just naturally, you know?
Definitely. And you look through the rest of the running backs, assuming Javonte is healthy to start the year, because the other option was he could start on the PUP list, but that keeps him out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I think that based on what we've heard, keeping him out 6 weeks, probably not that much.
If anything that you can read from this latest quote report, it's that he's probably not starting the season on the PUP. He's starting the season on the roster.
Yep, definitely. So Javonte and Samaje, they're on the roster. But after that, there's going to be at least one more running back who makes the team. And if Javonte does take another week, then you'd probably expect at least 2 of those guys. And so those options would be Tony Jones Jr., who's been in the league for a few years, hasn't been overly productive, hasn't been overly efficient, but at least has some touches and has worked with Sean Payton before. You've got Tyler Beatty, who was the 5th-round pick for the Ravens last year, who got cut during the season, and the Broncos picked him up.
Out of Mizzou. That Ravens running back room, as they have Kenyon Drake and J.K. Dobbins and Justice Hill, and like they just had a ton of guys. So
and so if you're going to sign with the team's practice squad after being cut, why not go to the Broncos where They did not have that issue last year. So he got 2 touches last year. One was like the 29-yard touchdown catch. He's an option, and then Jaleel McLaughlin, the other option. And I think it's Beatty or McLaughlin who takes that 3rd spot. If they keep another, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Jones just because he's been around.
What's interesting is they're all a type.
Definitely.
Beatty, Tony Jones, McLaughlin. McLaughlin probably most of that type. But these are all smaller backs with some juice to them and, some potential in the running game.
Yep. And they'll keep Michael Burton, too, as a fullback, which sometimes changes the equation.
It does. I wanted to mention that. You think he's set and forget.
He is very set and forget.
There's
I can't remember.
like H-back options that could sneak in and supplant them where you talk yourself into
no.
I can use this guy on special teams in the tight end room and the fullback room.
Somebody, I can't remember who it was. Somebody tweeted out a video of Michael Burton when he was a Saint. And it's him doing that H-back. They call it their F-back. It was John Heath who tweeted it out. But it's him just pulling in motion to lead a Taysom Hill keeper that went for almost a touchdown.
Yeah.
And when you just have a guy who's used to doing that sort of thing in this system and is established, he's been in the league for forever. There's only so many real fullbacks in the NFL.
Yep.
And he does all these other things. We'll actually get there in a minute when we talk about Nate Adkins, which probably won't take quite as long. But Burton's locked in. Why don't we just hit Nate Adkins right now? We kind of touched on him on Friday.
Yeah.
6'3", 252. He isn't an athlete. They list him as a tight end. He's, again, that H-back, F-back. Actually, Sean Payton mentioned that as well at some point during minicamp. I don't remember exactly when that was. But maybe he's the practice squad guy behind Burton.
Yeah,
maybe you develop him, cheap option in the future.
It's going to be hard for him to break into that tight end room for sure.
Especially being the kind of player he is. You've already got Dulcich, you've already got Troutman, Tommy Hudson's in there too now.
I mean, he's a guy who wore 44 in college and will probably wear, I see him listed as 45 on the Broncos roster, already rocking that fullback number. An interesting guy because he enters the book on him, and he's just a shade under 6'3", 252, as Hank was saying, was that he's an inline tight end for the Gamecocks. And towards the end of the season, he kind of came along as a receiver, had a nice game against Notre Dame.
Yep.
Had a spectacular one-handed catch against Clemson.
Yep.
South Carolina and that offense with Spencer Rattler and those guys kind of came along and had some major upsets at the end of the season, including those two I just mentioned, including beating Tennessee as well, who was one of the top stories of the year. He ran a 4.74 at his pro day. And so, he's known as more of a blocker, but I think there's more intrigue with what he does as a pass catcher. His hands seem decent, and he's intriguing ball in his hands, as a runner at 250 pounds. That's why I think he'd kind of be fun as a fullback. He's just not big enough to be an inline tight end at the NFL level. He's more like a compact blocker, not linear and length and strength.
He just limits what you do with him on the field. Because even that one-handed catch, you think it was the OBJ type of one-handed catch, but he didn't get off the ground. It's more of a falling backward, just
he's
grab it.
He's falling forward to get it for sure.
The hands are there. It's kind of crazy. I was in love with Hunter Lepke, the fullback from North Dakota State during the draft.
Oof.
Because he has some of those same things. Where he just makes some crazy catches on the sideline. But then you go back and look,
awesome.
and the Broncos had Andrew Beck as their fullback last year.
Yeah.
Also, week 1, he had a one-handed catch on the sideline. In the NFL, just about everybody who's there can do that kind of stuff. And Nate Adkins, he checks that box. So if you want him to be a weapon fullback, he'll give you some exciting plays from that spot, which is, I don't know, it's exciting to see that.
Put on the Nate Adkins highlight reel. One of the plays that is featured is a forced fumble on a punt return against Clemson.
Same game, yeah.
That's where he's really going to make his money in the NFL. And look, man, I mean, the inline stuff didn't quite work out. To make a name for himself, he's gonna have to show some like blocking and space chops.
Yep.
Being able to get downhill and beat some dudes up at the second level. We kind of haven't seen that. That's what's gonna make or break his ability to make this roster. Fun though, fun eval.
Yeah, and I mean, with Michael Burton there, I do think that Nate Adkins, if he can just get a practice squad spot, that is a great result for him. I think it's worth saying last year more than half of all of the undrafted free agents who signed with an NFL team were either on the active roster or on the practice squad week 1.
And then, dude, it feels like those top guys from the practice squad are seeing the field by November, December.
Exactly, and the rule changed this year so that each player can, or no, that was last year that they changed it so each player on the practice squad can appear in 3 or 4 games. I think the change this year is that you can use more per game. So 50% of guys sticking around, a lot of guys on the practice squad wind up being on the field at some point, either year 1 or later on. This year, even more likely. So these are names that you're probably going to keep hearing. But yeah, tight end wise, Dulcich is on the team. Manhertz is on the team. Troutman is probably on the team. Alberto is probably on the team. Even Tommy Hudson, who they brought in, he could serve a role. Maybe he's more injury insurance if they really need a blocking tight end. But
those guys start camp all ahead of Adkins.
Pretty easily, too.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, maybe something crazy happens, like the Broncos trade Alberto. Like, somebody says, like, it's obviously why the Broncos would do it, but...
Yep, that's a scenario. An injury to Michael Burton would change the equation a little bit.
Definitely.
Because you don't have much tight end insurance. That's what I think Adkins ultimately is. I mean, fullback insurance is fullback insurance.
And that is worth noting. And I kind of threw it away because I was like, you don't use Greg Dulcich in that role. But Sean Payton did say, like, our F-back, Greg Dulcich can do that. He talked a lot about the joker position, and that's kind of what everybody took away. But a lot of that is, in every other offense, basically you call it the H-back. But they think that they can move Dulcich around.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe he's better taking on kind of blitzers getting through or helping out in protection, getting to use his athleticism more as a blocker instead of just standing there at the line and getting pushed back.
Yep.
Just because he isn't much of a blocker, you think putting him in what amounts to sort of a fullback role is a bad idea. But
and
it's
with him in the backfield, we talked about so much on the last show, you don't want guys who the second they line up, you've already given the defense a huge tell. Greg Dulcich in the backfield doesn't do that. The last thing you're thinking is, oh, he's going to stay home and be an extra blocker in the backfield, right? You're imagining he's doing all other things. So that's where he's intriguing. Nate Adkins in the backfield, you're kind of like, oh, yeah, for the most, I bet he's just blocking there.
Yep, definitely.
And honestly, you could say that about Dulcich. You could say even more about Troutman and Alberto, who I always thought had some HVAC versatility to their game,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see. So we've hit 2 of these undrafted free agents.
Kind of the 2 faves, but we're big trench guys too.
Oh, yes. That's maybe my faves.
Yeah.
It looks like there's about 11 total, I think, left on the team. So we're actually not on a bad pace at all. But before we get on to some more of these guys, I want to tell you about Pins and Aces.
Boom.
That is the official golf apparel brand of ALLCITY.
Damn straight. Look at that lower third. Look at that hat. Look at that Broncos hat. A beauty.
Look at the head covers over there.
Yeah, you should see the Joker hats that they have. They have some cool stuff, man.
Oh, I love the Joker.
Got a little 420 edition.
Oh, I bet they do.
Pins and Aces, they've got quite the variety.
They have, if you want president,
they are the cool guys.
If you want president's head on your golf club,
they've
got a lot of presidents.
Yep.
Which, again, not something that I would have ever thought of. Like I said, the official golf apparel brand of ALLCITY, they've got all sorts of different golf shirts and pants and shorts and different just random gear that, I don't know. They're a fun company. So they're like, when you're going golfing, it's like, what do I need? I need my glove. I need my balls. Like maybe I need a rangefinder. But you don't even think of things like their massive like beer stick where you load all the beers in.
Yep.
So they have like all the fun accessories that might make your round of golf will definitely make your round of golf more fun. So definitely go over to pinsandaces.com, use the code DNVR. You'll receive 15% off your first order. You'll also get free shipping. That's pinsandaces.com. Also Volo Sports.
Boom.
I've actually got some friends who play Volo Sports.
Yeah.
And they love it. And it's nice to be able to say, yeah, guess what? We get to do Volo things for free because they're a partner of ours. Volo's been really awesome. I know Ryan says the kickball league. It's like you get 2 points, 1 point for winning the kickball game against whoever you're playing, and then you get 1 point for winning the flip cup game against your opponent when they come to the DNVR bar after.
Whoa.
And that's how the standings work. So there's stuff like that. It's beer in hand, kickball, or drink in hand. I think probably for legal purposes.
Yeah,
probably.
Drink in hand sounds right.
But yeah, so then you got like the volleyball leagues that maybe don't involve quite so much of the beer. You've also got things that include more beer, like cornhole or just the straight up drinking games. So they've got all sorts of different sports. They also have the Volo Kids Foundation. So it's a 501c3 that provides free sports camps to kids in each Volo city. So a portion of what you pay goes to that to help kids too. So that's an even better reason to sign up. Awesome. For $20 per month, you can get unlimited pickups, drop-ins, and tournaments. There's like events, there's social activities every single night. And so it's kind of a cool membership program. You can also sign up for teams. It's also $200 per year if you don't want to pay the $20 a month. Better value, save $40. But they've got leagues in all different sports everywhere across the Denver metro area: Arvada, Aurora, Cherry Creek, Sloan's Lake, City Park, Inglewood. Summer registration actually closes this Thursday. So if you want to sign up for a team, or even just sign up for as a free agent, and they'll put you on a team if you don't have enough people to actually get your whole team, you can do that too. So sign up now before it's too late. Once again, you have to sign up by Thursday, and if you use the code DNVR10, you'll get $10 off at www. I don't need to say that part. They know that part. Just volosports.com/Denver. Volosports.com/Denver. And use the code DNVR10 for $10 off.
Even your browser knows. Like if you just omit the www, your browser knows that's what you mean.
This, I'm sure it was Caitlin who wrote this ad copy. Include the www.
Shouts to her. Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Absolutely.
All right. We've got a bunch more of these guys. Yeah, it's only 10:30, so we're doing great. We're doing really great.
I'm not doing the arguing about how long the show is again, okay?
Yeah, it's 2 hours. Taylor Grimes. So, Taylor Grimes from Incarnate Word, which we love. Yep. For a wide receiver, there aren't a lot of offenses you'd like to see more. Like that just spread offense, fling it around. And he's just been the lead guy for a while. Over the past 2 seasons, 2,400 receiving yards, 30 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that's 1,215 touchdowns per season. That's just insane.
It's not bad.
He's a true slot receiver, 5'11", 188.
They've got a few of those that they've added to the mix.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Obviously, 5'11", 188 doesn't have like insane athletic traits. He's just very polished. And that to me is exciting. He also has really good hands. I think there's a couple catches that you see where it kind of blows your mind. Decent with the ball in his hands after the catch also, especially against the competition that they play.
You
I think that's
should hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, good like Montrell Washington, Kendall Hinton competition.
Yep, exactly.
Kind of is that 5th wide receiver, potential returner type deal.
Yeah.
You like him better than the Jackson State kid?
They cut him.
There you go.
And I really liked both of them. Those are 2. Dallas Daniels was the guy because he's like the toolsy guy.
Yeah,
he was toolsy. Grimes was productive, and that's why Grimes had probably a better chance to be on the team this year. But long term, the upside, Dallas Daniels, just like freaky athlete, that was exciting. But apparently things did not go well early on because he's not on the team anymore.
Right.
But yeah, so Broncos obviously really deep at receiver. You've got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Marvin Mims, So that's 4 guys who are locked into jobs.
Yeah.
KJ Hamler, I think if healthy, is, in my opinion, probably locked into a job.
Yeah.
Brandon Johnson is another guy who I think is probably at the top of the list of the remaining guys. Kendall Hinton right there with him. Marcus Callaway. All of a sudden, that's 8 names, and so breaking through is going to be tough. But I think the path for Taylor Grimes is you got to go through the other slot receivers. So you got to beat out Montrell Washington, and you've got to beat out Kendall Hinton. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do both of those things, you're not making the team out of camp.
Straight up. Or you need to be amazing on special teams, and guys
True.
like Marvin Mims already have a leg up on you.
Definitely. I do think I think he'll get his chance as a returner.
Yeah.
I think as a punt returner, he'll definitely get his chance. And I guess that is kind of the...
How much should I
flip
read
side.
into there were only 2 returners in this draft? And
that was Mims, yeah.
Tank Dell and Marvin Mims.
Yeah, that's something you should probably read into. That's what Sean
Yeah.
Payton said. There are 2 returners in this draft.
Right.
So
no mention of the 2 undrafted kids they signed.
No, they weren't in the... Well, they were in the draft. So, yeah, there's Taylor Grimes. Again, just crazy production. 2,400 yards, 30 touchdowns over the past 2 seasons.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Let's see. We'll hit the offensive lineman. So my favorite, Alex Palczewski. Palczewski. Damn it. That's what I was going to say. I studied up months ago, but then I forgot.
Shame on you.
He was a starting guard at Illinois in 2017.
That's actually a common thread with a lot of these guys who like started their careers in 2017.
It's crazy.
And that was their 5 years of eligibility while skipping 2020 type deal.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And he actually really struggled in 2017, but he was a freshman in the Big Ten. That's what happens.
Yeah.
He's played mostly at right tackle. I think he wound up playing left tackle last season.
Right tackle.
Yes. I haven't left tackle last season. I might have screwed that up. But mostly right tackle. I think left tackle last season. 6 years as a starter.
Yep.
Missed a little time with an injury.
I believe the only 2-time captain in Illinois, or one of only two captains in Illinois history to be the captain for 2 different bowl teams.
Interesting.
Which tells you how much Illinois football has struggled and what a unique distinction this kid has.
Definitely.
Like he was one of those leaders of one of the best Illini teams of all time. No doubt about that.
And he was an All-American last year. I think 3rd team, but All-American nonetheless. Didn't give up a single sack in 2022. Not one sack. That's from Pro Football Focus's counting.
Yeah. I'd have to show him the Minnesota tape I watched yesterday.
So why didn't he get drafted?
Yeah, and I think the testing numbers weren't even that terrible at his pro day, like pretty average. But he's 6'6", 303. So my hardest thing with Palczewski, is that at 6'6", 303 linear frame, he looks like a tackle. He can move pretty well. Doesn't have great length, 33 3/8 arms, which does hurt him. Kind of when guys go around him, when guys go through him. He's not the strongest or most efficient kind of blocking in space. Frankly, he's really a guard in the body of a tackle. Like I don't, as a guy who's not great blocking in space, well, I don't love him as my left guard.
Yeah.
He lacks that linear frame. He lacks a little width. Don't love that for my right guard, where I want more of a Mauler, more of a Quinn Miners, violent hips. He's a little long, doesn't play with the most natural leverage. You need to see him use that length, get on top of guys, and kind of use those hips to like bury dudes who he can get on top of instead of worrying about the leverage battle. So he's got a lot of experience. I don't see a natural position for him at the next level. And I think that's probably what hurt him most.
Yeah, I think that's all fair. Another tackle that they signed at a USF, Demontre Jacobs. He's very different. He's the more physical type player. 6'6", 315 is why I have him at. The testing numbers weren't great, but when you look at him, he's just like a massive man. He looks like a big ball of clay that you can potentially mold into a starter. So he played right tackle initially, flipped to left tackle at the end of his career at USF. So I think he started 2 seasons, 1.5 seasons, something like that. So a lot of the numbers don't love him when you just look at like per snap sorts of results. But he did only give up 3 sacks over the last 2 seasons, which is at least a solid baseline. There's something to work with there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's the kind of guys you want to add to your practice squad that you can develop and, have some tools that you actually can believe in and build on.
Yep. And then in terms of a tackle making the roster, you've got Garrett Bowles, you've got Mike McGlinchey, you've got Cam Fleming. Those are your top 3. Like there isn't even much competition. Christian DeLauro has been he's like 28. He's just been on NFL practice squads his entire career. He's like your emergency tackle. Quinn Bailey, I'm not sure if they see him as a tackle more. He played his best as a guard last year when he was subbing at the end of the season because of injuries. Isaiah Prince, he started the Super Bowl run for the Bengals. Also, I think wound up with like a 2.4 PFF grade. That was the Super Bowl run. Well, you'll remember right after everybody saying, how could the Bengals put Joe Burrow behind that offensive line?
Yep.
He was the left tackle of that offensive line.
Nice.
So experienced, but not the greatest results, still fairly young. And then you've got these two. So Prince, I think it's possible to beat him out. I think DeLauro, it's possible to beat him out.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good chance that you keep a 4th tackle with Quinn Bailey maybe getting that job because he can be tackle or guard. That versatility could win it out. But I do think that there is a path if one of these 2 undrafted free agents can really play well.
There's a path for sure. There's a path. I think the path is even more obvious on the interior, where a guy like Henry Bird might really have some options here.
Yes, and Henry Bird, mentioned him before, Princeton. He was great. He was great at Princeton. 3-time All-Conference. Yeah. 2-time first-team All-Conference. Played left tackle, probably a guard. I think they even list him as a guard with the Broncos.
Yep. Guy who developed his body, comes to Princeton at 260 pounds, is 310 pounds by the end of his career.
Yep. And 310 pounds for a guard isn't massive. No. At Princeton, though, it is massive. And he was able to just swallow up anybody who was trying to come at him, which it'll be a different game. He's the one who's also a tap dancer.
Dude, I mean, what better endorsement for, I think, pick out any sport in the whole entire world, any position in any sport. If there's any position you want a guy to be a tap dancer, it's literally your offensive line.
Yep. And, I mean, Terrell Davis, tap dancer. We love that too.
Yeah, and he's got the smarts from the Ivy League. That's important. Do you think, kind of side question, both Alex Forsythe and Luke Waterberg are on the 53, or is that a decision where one or the other must be omitted from the 53? Because I think both of those guys are true centers.
Yep.
There's not a ton of guard versatility.
Yep. I do. I think Wattenberg probably has more guard versatility, but it's not a lot of guard versatility.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the couple of snaps we saw him at guard, those are the ones that went horribly. And he got benched shortly thereafter. That's when Quinn Bailey came in and played really well at guard. So
much better guard.
I mean, I think there's a 90% chance only one of those guys is on the team, or honestly, neither's on the team. There's a real chance of that. But that would depend more on Kyle Fuller, who does have guard versatility.
Yep.
And he's similar to Isaiah Prince in some ways, in that he's played before, which gives him a leg up, but hasn't played particularly well.
Yeah.
But he's not a lock to make the roster. At guard, Powers, Miners, they make the roster. Quinn Bailey, if he's a guard, I think he's probably next up. Kyle Fuller's right there. Will Sherman, our CU guy.
Yes.
Remember, scouting report on him was he just needs time for the body to develop, refine some things, and he's more of a developmental prospect. Yep. Well, he's 2 years in, and so this is kind of the chance to, as a 23-year-old, say, look, I developed. So he's there, and you also have Henry Bird. So of those 4, Fuller, Bailey, Sherman, Bird, 1 or 2 probably make the roster, and I think that's pretty wide open.
Yeah. I think I'd give, if you handicap that, what would you put that at?
Fuller as a slight favorite over Bailey.
Yep.
And then Sherman and Bird a step behind him. And if you want to include the centers, Wattenberg, honestly, maybe just slightly ahead of Sherman and Bird because he's a draft pick, but maybe not even in front of them. Yeah. And Forsyth probably just a little ahead of Wattenberg.
Wattenberg felt so very like specifically drafted for that Hackett zone blocking scheme.
Yes.
I just don't see him fitting in at all here, man.
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
The other thing that's kind of crazy about him, I'm pretty sure, like if you just look at all the interior linemen, I'm trying to figure out when Lloyd Cushenberry turns 26. So he turns 26 in November. So Wattenberg is older than Ben Powers, or not than Ben Powers. He's older than Cushenberry. He's older than Miners. He isn't older than Fuller, but he's older than Forsyth, potentially older than Quinn Bailey. So he definitely older than Sherman and Bird. So he might be, like, it's not even like he's your young guy in the group.
Big yikes.
Yeah, so that's tough.
Yeah. Not great.
Before we hit the defense here, Shady Rays.
Dude,
We love Shady Rays.
we were at Zach's wedding.
We were.
And we were all rocking those Shady Rays at high altitude, the whole crew, you know, significant others,
Yes.
you know, ourselves decked out in suits. We look good,
Suits.
man.
We did look good.
We look good. Not as good as Zach,
True.
but we look good.
He did look good.
He looked outstanding. I mean, just incredible. And thanks to Shady Rays, high altitude in the mountains, you needed them.
Yes.
And we look stylish, and our eyes were well protected.
Oh,
What
my
more
eyes-
could you ask for?
I mean, eye protection at a wedding. Nothing. What else would you ask for?
Right, absolutely.
Maybe some cups that have pictures of the couple's cats.
Right. We got that. Boom.
Yes.
Check that box
They said
off.
party animals.
Yes.
That was pretty good. But yeah, Shady Rays was awesome. Very important when you're up there at the high altitude.
Oh my
and if
gosh.
you want to check out some Shady Rays sunglasses, you can get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses when you go to shadyrays.com and use the code DNVR. So do that. Go to shadyrays.com. Use the code DNVR. Oh, there's also 50% off 2 or more pairs. There's also up to 50% off single pairs.
Whoa.
So that's new, and you might want to take a look.
There's such a great deal. These
Ooh.
are like $100 sunglasses. They're already selling to you at half that price. And then you use this code DNVR, you're getting half of that. It's insane. I love Shady Rays so much.
Yep, you're not the only one. 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
Jeez.
Probably more.
Way to not make me feel unique,
250,001.
guys. Thanks a lot. God damn it.
Also,
Always putting me down.
Breckenridge Brewery. We didn't drink Breckenridge beers. I just didn't drink any beers over the weekend.
Yeah, I guess me and the fam were drinking Breck beers the night prior.
Oh, okay.
We got Palisade Peached, I think.
Yes, the beer of the month here at the
Yeah.
DNVR bar,
Damn
which
straight.
means it's discounted here.
Yep.
$6. $6 at the DNVR bar. So
Get the heck out of here.
go to breckbrew.com. You can use their beer locator,
Boom.
and it will tell you exactly where to go to pick up whatever you want to try.
Yep.
Whether it's Palisade Peach or the Broncos Country Hoppy Pale Ale or
Mountain Beach.
the Mountain Beach. That's a good summer beer
We
for
were
sure.
in a Mountain
Strawberry
Beach
Sky.
frame of mind, you know?
We
this
were.
weekend.
Definitely a little more mountain than beach, but
Right.
we'll call it Mountain
Totally,
Beach.
Totally.
So you go. Beer locator at breckbrew.com. It'll tell you where to go to pick up any of those Breckenridge beers. Okay. You have PJ Mustafa takes.
Yeah, I do.
What do you think?
He's one of the most for real UDFAs in this entire class that we're going to talk about. Big boy, starter at Penn State. He has no range. Fairly immobile.
Yeah.
Right. He's not going to do much for you in pursuit. He
No.
tries, you know.
Yeah.
But he's mostly some quick hands. So sometimes he'll get you on a move, and next thing you know, he's in the backfield. Very strong. You do not push him back. And a pretty sound tackler to where he's just going to be able to hold his O-lineman, play that 2 gap. Once he sees the runner go one side, he's able to close on that, get the tackle. When he takes on double teams, He's not getting moved around, so that's an important quality. He's so athletic and rangy. It's the double team needs to seek him out. He's just not going to be able to really get in the lap of a double team that quickly to actually command a double team. But valuable on the goal line with that kind of strength.
And, I mean, week 1, you play the Raiders. They're probably going heavy personnel. They want to run the ball a lot.
And we talked about the importance of nose tackles on last pod.
Sure did.
And, I mean, Mike Purcell is kind of a smaller nose tackle as far as nose tackles go. And he hasn't had any depth.
Yep.
And also at Penn State, used a little too, like, a nose should be right over the face of the center. 0 technique. Or just shaded 1 technique at worst. He's off playing the 4-eye, man. He's off as a 5 technique sometimes. Get him closer to the ball, closer to center, and that's where we're going to increase his value. He definitely needs to be a priority practice squatter and has an outside shot of making the 53.
Definitely.
The things he does, while not like premium skills that you need to seek out or pay a premium for, still are unique traits that fit an NFL field.
You're going
that
to want.
You need.
Exactly. There are going to be multiple times throughout the season where you just need the big nose tackle.
Yes. I'm going to have a bite of banana.
You mentioned Mike Purcell, who's he's been the nose tackle, obviously, and he is a nose tackle with range. He is somebody who can run downfield, make plays. That's something he's really good at. So that's a difference. If they were to keep Mustipher over Mike Purcell, it would save them about $2.8 million.
Wow.
I mentioned that I think that that's going to be something I have to push back on in about a month.
Big time, man.
But that is just kind of the truth of the situation. You also look around DJ Jones. He can play the nose tackle role. Probably not where he's best, but that is something he's done in the past.
Part of what factors into this is that 5 technique rotation. Where after Zach Allen and DJ Jones, you might be starting, Uzurike or Henningsen.
Jonathan Harris.
Right.
So,
and could Purcell give you some 5 technique snaps?
Probably
because he is a more mobile guy.
Definitely. You also have Tyler Lancaster.
What a name.
What a name.
For starters.
Who has some experience but has kind of bounced around a little bit.
Yes.
But I do think Mustipher is definitely on my short list of guys who could, undrafted free agents who could make the team. And he's one of the few that I worry if you try to get him to the practice squad, somebody else might scoop him up. Because it only takes one injury to one nose tackle somewhere for a team to say, hey, here's this rookie who's going to be cheap, and if we need some depth, he'll provide it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and Jose with a good comment here. I mean, I think we've kind of mentioned it in every single one of these breakdowns, right? The O-linemen, they all have some deficiencies. The running back is undersized. PJ, as we just broke him down, is fairly limited,
Yep.
These guys all have obvious reasons why they haven't been drafted. There's also like a path to maybe a more limited niche role, but that developed as a special teamer or back end of the 53, they could find their way on the field.
Definitely. We talked a lot about Thomas Incoom on Friday.
Yeah.
Just quick recap.
Huge fan.
Bully ball type of rusher. 6'2", 262.
Yep. Edge rusher out of Central Michigan.
Yep. Very productive. 7th in the country in tackles for loss. It was a great Division II player before he went to
Valdosta State,
Central Michigan.
Yeah, 11.5 sacks last year. Senior Bowl invite. All-American, honorable mention. I mean, that's how dominant he was in the MAC.
Just pretty raw still, which makes it even more impressive that he was able to do all that.
He's a 24-year-old, but he's super raw because he started playing defense full-time when he goes to Division II Valdosta State.
Yep.
As an 18-year-old. So these other guys who've been playing football since the time they were, peewees, he's only played it as an adult. And you already saw like his effort, his ability to play with natural leverage. He's got some really nice bend. His hands are violent. All that makes him really productive, and he can beat up on lower level offensive tackles. More refined offensive tackles, like what you see if you put him on against Power 5 opponents, what you see if you put on the Senior Bowl practice tape, is that he doesn't have a counter yet. He's still developing that arsenal of pass rushing moves. So I think in the NFL, even when you're in November, December, and oh shit, we're playing the Chargers and they've got their third string right tackle, even that guy who might have been a lower end Senior Bowl guy might be able to keep him at bay. As he gets coached up and develops those counters, develops that arsenal of moves, sky's the limit. Like, this is an almost Shaq Barrett-like profile to me. He's that type of pass rusher with that type of natural skill. I think it was an upset he went undrafted. Many people thought early to mid day 3 he would have been off the board.
And he's also the highest paid undrafted free agent, which you'd expect. Bidding war. Worth saying, I think Alex Palczewski was second. PJ Mustipher got a big deal, and I think Henry Bird also got a big deal. Those are the biggest. And Art Green was also
trenches, man,
in the conversation.
Yeah, let's get to Art Green real quick. But Incoom, older prospect who's raw. So that's why you'd go undrafted, right?
Yep.
But I think he can play hand in the ground. I like him against the run. He's strong at the point of attack.
Yep.
Like, there's not a lot not to like. Again, an upset, he went undrafted. And I think that's just the NFL preferring guys with like higher upside, higher like natural tools and stuff. So.
Yep. And you look at the outside linebackers, Randy Gregory, Frank Clark, Baron Browning, Jonathan Cooper. That's 4 roster spots. Nick Benito, that's 5 roster spots. Then you got Aaron Patrick, who made the team out camp last year. Chris Allen, who was another freaky type prospect who could be a good player in the NFL. Incoom, and then also Marcus Haynes, the Old Dominion edge rusher.
Yes.
Undersized, 233 pounds.
Right. Much more competition for Browning Benito, if you as far as types go.
Definitely.
I am scared that Incoom is just so raw he cannot be rostered year 1.
I agree.
He needs that year on this practice squad, and I worry, is he going to make it to the practice squad, right? Like, that's where he's in that gray area of like, he's so good.
Yep.
Do you burn a 53 because you're worried of exposing him to waivers?
And in that case, because if you keep him, then you're keeping 6 outside linebackers, or you're trading Jonathan Cooper, trading Nick Benito. And those are...
We don't want that.
Those are tough decisions to make right now.
Yes,
but they
sir.
kept 6 on the initial roster last year, so that's definitely possible.
Yeah.
Inside linebackers, Seth Benson, Iowa. This is actually a fun one for me because you go back and watch, and it's like, wow, this is like a good 2-down linebacker. What you expect from Iowa linebackers. Sure. But then I was like, I wonder what it was like when Josie Jewell was there, because I hadn't gone back and watched a lot of Josie Jewell.
Yeah.
And this is around the time RK was in love with Jack Campbell, so that was another reason I watched Josie Jewell. Yeah. It's like, wait, Josie is just insane. Like, that's just a different level. And when you look at it through that lens of Josie's a good 2-down linebacker in the NFL, and he gets by on 3rd downs. Like, you don't need to take him off the field on 3rd downs. You look at the difference between him and Benson at Iowa, and you're like, oh, if that's what a good 2-down linebacker is, Benson, maybe he can provide some depth someday, but it's just tough to find a spot for a guy who is kind of that between the tackles. He's just going to put the guy on the ground when you already have Josie Jewell, you already have Alex Singleton,
now Drew Sanders.
So this might be the toughest position to make the team.
With
overall,
his level of
especially
praise.
Jonas Griffith, especially with that, yes.
Like, if it was some off-ball linebacker who was like a converted safety and runs a 4.4,
exactly.
Like, oh wow, this dude's different from the rest of the room.
Maybe you can take Jonas Griffith's spot,
right?
Or you just keep 5.
The way I describe him is he's like plays like Alex Singleton with kind of the traits that Josie Jewell brings to the table, only kind of a lesser version of both. He's fun to watch though, man, and that defense is fun to watch. He's around the ball a lot.
Constantly.
He's just more of a north-south athlete.
Yep.
And when, you're not 6'3", 250 like Mahler, you're, 6 foot 231. It's going to be, you really need to be like an absolute phenom at doing that kind of basic trait. not terrible range, right? He moves okay, but they're like keeping him in a pretty contained like zone there.
And that's why I think maybe being a little undersized helps him. But you'd still prefer that he lost a little bit of that range and was just bigger and more of a thumper between the tackles.
Yep, absolutely.
Fit his game a little bit better. But, I mean, as a practice squad option, as a guy who you could call up if you needed to fill a role when Josie Jewell misses a game or two and Alex Singleton potentially misses a game or two.
Absolutely.
That's probably where the fit is.
A guy who's already going to come in, be a pro, and in case of emergency, you can trust. A lot of these other guys, more developmental pieces. He's more of a, you could plug and play.
Art Green. Oh, let's do one more before we get to Art Green. Haggai Chisholm Nadubuisi, first of all, has my name.
Whoa.
But he is from the NFL's International Pathway Program. So I can't remember where exactly in Africa he's from. I didn't write it in my notes. But the NFL puts on camps out there and basically says like, hey, are you interested in football? We're trying to develop people from non-football playing areas and give them a chance. So he stood out because he's a defensive lineman who's 6'7" and 323 pounds, just freaky physical specimen. And the way it works is he gets assigned to a team and he doesn't count toward the 90-man limit. So that's why Broncos now have 91 on the roster, because throughout the offseason they can keep him. Thought I'd just say his name, but there's really no reason to think that he will be able to get a spot on the 53-man roster, given that I think he was in the Rams camp last year, maybe? No, Cardinals camp last year. So a little Vance Joseph familiarity.
Yeah.
But in terms of making the roster, very unlikely.
Yeah, for sure. Art Green,
yes.
top likelihood, right? And I think we've already got TD 007 breaking him down with ran a 4.3 at his pro day.
Oh, yeah.
And his size.
Yeah.
Got him featured right there on the lower third.
Tools
For days. I guess flashed at the East-West Shrine, which you like.
Mm-hmm.
May I start this off?
Go ahead, yeah.
So, has the size, has the speed, kind of described as a natural cover 3 press man guy. Definitely better suited in a zone.
Yep.
I worry about that quickness and quick twitch. The tape I was able to find of him against SMU, targeted 4 times in the red zone. 3 of those are touchdowns. Ran his way on another tud. Just the processing speed is a bit behind.
Mm-hmm.
That quick twitch is just not totally there. So you want him to play more off, where the action's in front of him and he can read and react, and then use that 4.3 and that size to just jump on a play. I saw him jump a screen where he looked really good. He's decent recovery speed on like long crossers, but he's just not the most natural like quick twitch mover and adjusting to change of direction, and that's where he's kind of targeted in like closer areas. Otherwise, on more of a long range, I think his coverage skills are half decent, but like really struggled in kind of natural man coverage. Didn't see him enough in like press. Didn't see him enough in a cover 2 where he can play that shallow zone and just read and react and jump on stuff. Those are areas where I think he could be better. The tools are there for a drafted player. The tape is not.
Exactly. If you watch his highlight reel, you'd be like, oh my God, how is this guy not? Wait, 4'3", he's that big and he's doing these things? You'd think that he got drafted early. You'd think top 100 pick. The problem is the highlight reel is 49 seconds long.
I was going to say, one of the shorter highlight reels you'll find.
Definitely. But like you see things like a interception against Navy on a drag route. Where the guy's like running across the field and the quarterback's like, oh, he's got a step on him. Let's just lob this over. And it's like, nope. He just gets in front of him and picks it off. So you see stuff like that where the traits shine through. And that's why he was one of the higher paid undrafted free agents. That's why a lot of people thought he would be drafted. I can't remember. I think he was on my board of like guys I liked for the end of the draft for those reasons. Like the tools are just right there. Probably not helping you out defensively this year.
Right.
Just because he's so raw. And meanwhile, you have a bunch of guys on the roster. Obviously, Pat Surtain, DeMar Mathis, K'Wan Williams. Riley Moss. So you got those 4 roster spots basically locked in. Jaquan McMillan, not a lock, but you've got him and Tremon Smith who are up there. Delonte Hood, who's a year in the NFL, but very similar to Art Green.
Yep.
So there's a little bit of a competition you expect to see.
Even a guy like Fayon Hicks, you know.
Exactly. You have him and Isang Bassi, who will compete for probably that second slot job.
Yep.
Fayon Hicks, the draft pick last year. Isang Bassi played by far the best football of his career over the last month or two of last season.
Yep.
So I'm not sure that this is a group where the Broncos will be taking a risk on a guy who has tools, especially when you already have Damari Mathis and Riley Moss and Jaquan McMillan.
Yeah.
You already have some young guys who will probably be on the roster.
It's the Incoom profile. If this is a developmental guy, you hope you can just have in your practice squad for 1 to 2 years. I never saw him tackle either.
Huh. Yeah.
He's like easily blocked out of the play. He's just not jumping, he's just not like a bat out of hell running to make that tackle. There's some tools to like, but he's a ways away to being able to play like opposite PS2 on an NFL field.
Exactly. And that's where even just when you're talking about the speed, Damari Mathis has a lot of speed. Riley Moss has a lot of speed.
Indeed.
Tremon Smith has a lot of speed.
Yep.
So it's not like they're desperate for speed either. You just hope you can get him to the practice squad. And again, Delonte Hood, another guy who is very similar and might just beat him out for that practice squad spot. So those are the undrafted free agents. We did it.
We did it, man. I like what they brought to the trenches. I like some of these special team options. And I'm hoping Nate Atkins can find a way. I'll be rooting for some of these guys to find their way on the practice squad.
Definitely. And again, half of these guys will be on the practice squad or on the active roster. I think it was 52% of undrafted free agents in the NFL last year.
Yeah.
And because of the new rules, you're going to see some of these guys on the field next year. It's just going to be interesting to see who. Before we leave the undrafted free agent conversation, top 3 most likely to make the roster.
Oh, yes. In order?
Yep.
I'm going Incoom. 1.
Okay.
I'm going PJ Mustipher 2.
Okay.
And I'm going to go McLaughlin 3.
I'm going to go McLaughlin 1.
Yeah.
Just a numbers game. I think it's a roll of the dice. I really like Tyler Beatty too.
I do too.
He's really good.
I do too. And honestly, Tony Jones.
It makes me excited for the preseason.
Pretty darn talented.
So I'm going to go McLaughlin 1. I'm going to go Mustipher 2. And then I'm going to go... Give me Palczewski 3. He fires me up. He really fires me up.
Yeah.
And maybe Incoom should have been on there instead. Maybe Art Green should have been on there instead. So there we go.
You're easy to come up with 6 to make the practice squad, right?
Definitely.
Because then Palczewski, Henry Bird, Art Green, you should have had Incoom. Start to talk yourself into these guys pretty quickly.
Definitely. I'm so excited for the preseason.
Same.
How long? I guess we're still probably a month away from the first preseason game.
It's getting there.
We're getting close.
Yeah.
Before we hit the comment, I think we have one comment today. I want to remind you guys to, first of all, if you're listening, like this podcast.
Yeah, come on, guys.
Subscribe to the channel. Just because I know not everybody loves the football talk on this podcast, which is kind of crazy. But even if you want to send a message and want us to BS more, still like the podcast.
It's great advice.
Yep. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe on Apple and Spotify and all that stuff.
Leave us a good review.
Ooh, leave a good review. We love good reviews.
Yeah. Wherever you listen.
And also, make sure you come down to the bar. And if you're a diehard at DNVR, you get 15% off your entire bill.
Boom.
So that's a steal, especially because we're doing like the $1 wings this month.
Boom.
$1 wings, 15% off. All of a sudden, it's 85% or 85-cent wings. That's a pretty good deal.
Polo crowd. Did you get your free T-shirt when you signed up or when you renewed? Get on that because if you're a diehard, that's what you get. What you got cooking up on the site?
I did. Oh, I just did the trade value rankings last night, which was actually a real project.
Dude.
All those things you think like, oh, trade value rankings, there's something I can put together in an hour.
Yep.
Take another hour to write it. It's no.
That's
You're
a
looking through all the
thing.
contract details. You're like trying to compare all the others. There's some tough, really tough decisions. Like really tough decisions. Pat Surtain was one.
Uh-huh.
Who would you go number 2?
I'm thinking. Man, I mean, it all comes down to youth and contract.
The contract is what throws it off. Because the weird thing about the contract is all these new free agents, like Ben Powers, he only has a $2 million salary this year. And so because the Broncos just paid out this whole signing bonus, you're basically, if you were to trade him, which they would not, you basically get this 20% discount on the contract, which makes him a good value. But how do you compare that to Quinn Miners, who isn't there as a football player yet, but is close and could be soon?
Yeah.
You give him 2 years, $2.3 million.
With no prep, I'm going to go and say Baron Browning.
Oh, that's a good one. He actually just missed my list.
Wow.
I know, which is kind of crazy. He was on there, but because of the meniscus tear, I bumped him down because we don't know what he's going to...
Dang.
If we're going to see him for the first time halfway through. I went Jerry Jeudy, too.
What Hank's trying to illustrate here is we're not just saying diehard. You got to be a diehard. You want to seek out this kind of debate and thought as far as who's the Broncos' second most valuable in a trade. And you got to seek out like Rocky's quotes from the GM on their draft picks, recruiting trackers for Buffs and Rams, amazing content from Summer League. The list goes on and on and on. Our Avs coverage this offseason has been amazing. Trade grades, grading free agency signings, drafts, you name it. Video breakdowns. We're doing it all. Go to thednvr.com.
Yep.
Sign up. Get all the amazing perks, the exclusive merch, the merch
free shirt
discounts,
every year.
the free shirt every year.
20% off whenever.
Discounts at the bar. Discounts at events. Support Henry's writing and amazing journalism. Do it, baby. thednvr.com. Sign up today. Boom.
There we go.
What you got in store for us? Some questions?
Yes, we have one comment. Do we have any super chats? Wow, people do not like
What about
us.
questions you would highlight, Yaya? Oh.
Wow, now
it's
he's
just
flaming the
slacking
chat. Oh
Avs
my
show
goodness.
link, so actually I wasn't paying attention.
Avs show.
This is not the Buffs where I highlight questions. These questions you have to come through the website or super chats.
There you go. There you go.
There we go.
You heard Yaya's rules. Like the Jordan rules, there are the Yaya rules.
Wow, the Yaya rules.
Yeah.
This was from the count. Hank,
Okay.
if you had
Our
your
guy.
druthers and could have something unique to your taste happen at your wedding, what would that be? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
What would I have happen at my wedding, unique to my taste?
So, it could be
Throw
like...
some football, play a game of 500?
Yeah. Would you do something football-wise?
I'd be definitely throwing a football at my wedding. If it's a day where I get to do whatever I want, football will be involved.
Could it be like you're having your bride throw the bouquet?
Only if I get to throw it.
It's like a football?
She'd probably want to throw it too, though.
Maybe that could be your tradition. You throw a football to the boys.
Wow.
The fellas.
That's a good one.
What if you actually get somebody to throw the you glue the wedding rings to the football or stick them on somehow, and
Wow.
you throw them down the aisle, and that's how you get the wedding rings.
Right.
That's pretty good.
Like, forget a ring.
Wow.
What do they call it? Ring boys? Forget
Ring
the
bearer,
ring
bearer.
boy. And
Worst
just
word.
have, like, a badass sling the football at you.
gotta
Wow.
make a finger instead
That's
of a
pretty
ring.
good.
And you bring it in.
Just a little duct tape holding it on
Yeah,
there.
maybe you're wearing some, like, Montana gloves, some Grizz gloves, and you just...
We do love the Grizzlies.
But what if you don't catch it and it goes, like, straight to the noggin
That
of
is a lot of pressure on
the officiator?
That would not be good. If I would catch it. I've got good hands,
That
especially
could
if I was
be
wearing
another
gloves.
tradition. You could have it officiated by someone special, like a
wow.
Montana football legend.
Oh, that'd
Other
be a good
people
option.
have family.
Get Lavander Seegers out there.
Your bride might suggest, like, "Oh yeah, I was thinking my brother would marry us," and you'd be like, Oh, I actually reached out to retired Montana football legend
Dan Carpenter.
Dan Carpenter. For $200, he officiates weddings out here.
Yeah. So there's an option. Andre, also from the count. As of today, what is your guess as to the defensive backfield starters? Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons, Kareem or Caden?
I think it's still Kareem.
Okay.
Week 1.
Damari Mathis at corner?
Yeah.
You gotta.
I do think it's Mathis. I think it's too early for Riley Moss.
Yep. And then K1 in the slot?
Yeah.
It's probably got to be.
That's got him. He was amazing.
He was.
He was amazing. I think that's who it ends up being. Yeah.
And he finishes it off with also Derek Carr sucks. Love the count. Love you, the count.
Yeah. That's a new shtick from the count, huh?
No,
I love
Derek Carr
Carr
is bad.
slander.
Yeah.
We
all love Derek Carr slander. We all love the count, who's a special, special member of this community and included me in the question. That means so much. Count, you are a true legend, like Dan Carpenter, who I just learned of.
You know about Dan Carpenter. He was a kicker for the Bills for forever. Do you know who Dan Carpenter is? Mark Mariani, Pro Bowl returner from the Titans. Yeah,
definitely.
We love Mark Mariani.
Yeah, let's get him on.
Okay, that is going to do it for today because we did all the things. Remember, he was able to comment because he's a diehard. So be a diehard. You can comment.
Great point. Yep.
We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, Dre won't. It'll be me and Arcade tomorrow. Not sure what we're talking about.
Right.
But we'll be talking about the Broncos. Probably not as much as we did today, but that's just what happens when Dre leaves the podcast.
Sometimes.
So shout out to Dre for being on the podcast, and I will see you guys tomorrow.
Hell yeah.